Baresh. It's a joint venture between the Baresh family and the Little Hotel. So this is a champagne we make with him. It's 75% Pinot Noir, 25% Chardonnay. It's made in the classic method Champenoise, and it's aged for 6 years before it's released. We only make about 80 cases a year, so because of that, it's only exclusively poured here at the Little in our bar areas and for our catering events. So we do have larger weddings that pour this cuvee, and it eats through our stock very quickly, as you can imagine. But this for us is a cuvee that's meant to dual purpose, either drink out of hand because it's rich enough. It's also rich enough to go well with food, which is very important for us as well. Aromatically, it's a style that I really enjoy. I prefer champagnes that are more Pinot Noir based than Chardonnay because the acid is a little lower, a little bit richer on the palate, much easier to drink. Because I don't want to just drink one glass; I want to drink more than one glass of Chardonnay.
It's very yeasty.
Very yeasty, and that comes from so many years on the lees before they release it. So Rafa and Vincent Baresh inherited their family winery, the Baresh family winery, that's been making wine since the 1800s, and they started their own project, which is more of an experiment of releasing wines much later, very similar to what Dom Perignon does. So they never released these wines before they're 5 years old, and now we're starting to get them older and older and older, which is really interesting to share with our guests. Because typically when you walk into a restaurant, if you have a glass of champagne, it's always the current release. This is what people have access to. So by partnering with the winery and purchasing, pretty much the equivalent of about 3 barrels roughly, we can offer something that is much more mature and I think more appropriate for the style of hotel. So,
what region of Champagne is this from?
This comes from the Montagne du Rennes in the northern part. The winery itself is in a small village called Lude, L-U-D-E-S, in the very, very southern part of the Montagne du Rennes, almost in the Valley de Marne. And stylistically, it's actually probably more Valley de Marne, like more Beer Carcemon than the stuff in the very far north.
They grow mostly Pinot Noir.
Almost all Pinot Noir. It's very little Chardonnay, and the Chardonnay gets very ripe, so it makes a very opulent style of champagne, which I like riper champagne. I don't like the really acidic, like cut like a razor's edge, sort of champagne. It's too lean for me. It gives me heartburn. I'm starting to get old. I can't deal with the acid. It doesn't, So this is obviously our cellar, and what we'll do is we'll give you the opportunity to sort of walk around and look through the rows, and it's sort of somewhat like a wine library when you go through and you see all these like very famous names and famous vintages. But luckily for us, we actually sell them as well. They're not just meant to be looked at, but this is only half the collection. So the other part of the collection is around the corner in another cellar, and also above us right now is what we call our Burgundy attic. So as we purchase very highly allocated Burgundy, we try not to put those wines directly onto the list. The reason is we want to give them 3 to 7 years sort of age before we put them on the list to sell. And we multi-reason. One, we have the opportunity to offer those wines at a value. So you can imagine if you're a smaller restaurant and you have to purchase older vintages all the time, the price keeps going up. Well, we have them at the original price. So it gives us the opportunity to offer some great value of aged Burgundy on our list, but also we give those wines the opportunity the chance to sort of progress a little bit and come into themselves before we open them up. So we're not just always we don't have a young list for Burgundy. So we have it ranges between 20 to 22,000 depending on where we are right now. We're definitely at the 22,000 mark just because right before we go into season is where we have the most inventory, and then it'll start to draw back into the summer months, and then we'll start to amp back up for the next season. That's sort of how the rotation goes throughout the year for us, because we sell an enormous amount of fine and rare wine in the winter season. My first winter, I was absolutely in utter shock. The greatest bottles in the world were, to me, I'd never tasted them before. I'd only seen them. And guests were, so it's my first real day on the floor in the Christmas season. I want to say it was like the 23rd. And I walk out, and I used to always wear a tie, which no one in Aspen wears a tie. And I came from a very conservative, like Washington, D.C., everyone wore a tie, you had to. And I walk out, and it's like 10:30 in the morning, I'm like in the bar with a tie on. So obviously everyone's looking at me like, is he like security or someone else? So I'm walking around the bar, and there's a guy with a wine list already at 10:30 in the morning, and he's sitting in the living room area with a wine list and sweatpants. Like he just left the gym and wanted to drink some wine. So I approached him, and we started talking. We left, and he ordered a $10,000 bottle of wine to have with his sliders, like little mini burgers. And I walked away, and it was like, I was absolutely shocked. I brought the wine back, and I said, sir, I really just want to confirm that you want this bottle of wine. This is exactly what you want. He goes, yeah, is it okay? Do you recommend it? I go, well, yeah, I recommend it. I said, have you had this before? He goes, oh yeah, I've got tons of it, like at home. And I go, where am I, right?
Can we be friends?
Yeah, I go, where am I? And believe it or not, this is sort of,
This is Aspen, no?
it's Aspen. You know, it really is. We always tell people, if you look at any market, any city, and the most high-end clientele, the most discerning client in that restaurant that night, take all of those from all the cities around the country and bring them into one place, and that's Aspen, sort of in one place. So we're really fortunate to not only have a collection, but also have a collection where people come and they enjoy the wines. With that said,
And you have the customers, because if you don't get the customers, there's no point. But you get the customers that will buy them too.
well, so we have the Wine Spectator Grand Award. So it's essentially the highest honor you can have for a wine program in the world. There's only 88 restaurants in the world who have ever held this award. And there are restaurants that have purchased just a ton of wine, and they never have the clientele. It's just sort of this trophy piece of just this collection, which I guess in a sense seems pretty interesting, but for me it would be very boring. For us to have the opportunity to constantly open these wines and taste them and share them with guests and things like that, to me is the whole point. So we just started a new program called Little No Wine Club, and the whole goal is to really create a community of great wine clients, wine lovers that frequent the hotel. We do have some guests who will come in one visit, spend more than any of our other clients in one table, and we really appreciate having that client, believe me. But this is more about the guests who come often, people who are frequent the Little Nell. And what we do is the guests will sort of pre-purchase their favorite wines on the list, and we'll hold them in private cellars. And twice a year we'll hold sort of social events for them all to sort of come together and share bottles together and open essentially the whole goal is to have a room with the greatest wines in the world open all at the same time, and everyone sort of walking around and sharing and that sort of thing. So for me, that's really probably one of the more gratifying parts of this program is that we do have this big following of major wine collectors, both nationally and internationally. We have guests from Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Italy, South Africa, Australia. They all come, and the one thing they know is the Nell has two things. They have great rooms and great wine. Sort of thing is what our reputation is, which is obviously something to be proud of.
So for becoming a master sommelier, how much